euros or even 8 billion. A lot of money, isn't it? Hello and welcome to EuroparlTV's Google Hangout. Wondering what that money is for? Well, if you're a small or medium-sized enterprise, it's good news. It's all yours under the 70 billion euro Horizons 2020 package, the EU's new research and development programme. Or is it? How easy will it be for SMEs to get their hands on funding? And as the EU splashes the cash to kickstart the economy, will it really propel us back into being leaders in innovation, make us competitive and drive up growth and jobs? Or could the EU's €959 billion budget for the next 7 years be better spent elsewhere? Joining me in the studio is Belgian MEP from the Green Party and Vice President of the Parliament, Isabelle Durand. And a big welcome to all of our participants. And for all of you watching, of course, you can join in the debate via the hashtag EP Hangout on the Parliament's Google Plus page or on Facebook and Twitter. Mr. Durand, welcome to our Hangout.
Thank you.
Now, I mentioned that figure, 7 to 8 billion. The EU spends a lot of money, and obviously got lots of initiatives right now to try and kickstart the economy to get growth in jobs up. Is that 7 or 8 million going to be put to good use? I mean, how much money do we need to spend to the EU?
But of course, it's a lot of money. But the problem is how this money could be used, especially for SMEs, because I'm totally sure that on European level we will develop growth and employment with the help of SMEs, and not only with the big industry or the big companies. And in this regard, I am a little bit afraid that only 10% of this budget is normally affected to the SMEs. But it's not a binding target.
It means
10% of the 7,000 million have to be used for the SMEs. But it's not a binding target. It's the member states will decide. And of course, it's not a good idea. I think that we have to be more with binding target for the SMEs, because the SMEs are the best tool to create jobs and to organize a real recovery plan, not only with big industry but with SMEs. That's all added value on European level.
Now, you say that SME is the biggest tool to get jobs and growth up, but we had a question from Junior. Junior, would you like to ask the MEP your question?
Yeah, sure. My question is, because the Horizon 2020 program include funding for research, development, innovation, and support to small and medium-sized enterprise. So my question is, are there any particular focus on young entrepreneurship as a way to fight youth unemployment?
Not especially young entrepreneurship, but I agree with him. I think that it's important that the young entrepreneurship, and especially the new SMEs with young people, could be more supported, because they have the possibility to develop a real research, real innovation. It's easier with young people with ideas, with innovation views, and I think that it's not mandatory in this program, but it's possible, of course. So I think that the best way to organize that, and it's a real advice for this guy, I think that it's a capacity to organize a real transnational network of SMEs, and especially SMEs with young people. I think that this transnational network of SMEs could help in order to have access to the money of the European Union.
And Junior, I don't suppose you would have an idea to set up your own company?
But I mean, yeah, of course. As today, it's very difficult to find any job. The only way to have a job is to create it by ourselves. And if the European budget is having a lot of money on research, it could be for us young people a way to get in the working labor, if we could get access to that money as well in terms of entrepreneurship.
But Junior, do you think people your age understand how to get access to the money?
We don't, and that's what we're asking this question. And it will be easy for us if we could get more information about how to get access to this money.
May I ask a question to you? In which sector do you want to develop a project? Because of course it's not only the will, the innovation, the enthusiasm, but also the sector. In which sector do you want to begin?
I mean, I would like to begin in development project, developing project like the ITs, making app application and automatic application programs, something like that.
And does anyone else have an idea for a business plan that they'd like to run past the MEP? No? Okay, we'll go to our next participant. Jamshed, you also had a question about how the EU spends its money.
Hello. Oh yes, I'm just figuring out that you're just spending money all over the e-governmental stuff and all these major companies, but these structures are getting bigger and bigger, while our chambers, like the chambers of the architects or lawyers, tax advisors, these are all privately organized things, the chambers, they're getting smaller and smaller. So if you're just thinking about putting money somewhere, you should consider that, for example, in the health sector, all the northern parts of Europe and Britain have got a health service that organized by the state, and we in Germany, we've got a health service that organized privately. And these two things would collide too. So I think it would be better if you spend some money into building networks of these chamber professions.
So Isabel,
I understand what you mean. Of course, it's easier. So I said to the former citizen, I think that the networking is a big added value on European level. And I understand what you mean. But I think that we cannot wait all of Europe. I think that on national level, it could be interesting to organize and to develop this network in the different chambers. So I'm not sure that the European Union have to build it, but European Union have to support the capacity to do it.
There's not a single rule, you know. For example, I've got a kind of graphics. We've got countries over here in Germany. We've got 16 countries. That's North Rhine-Westphalia, Baden-Württemberg, Hamburg, and Bavaria. 16 countries. These are democratically organized within the Bund. No? The Bund actually does what all these 16 countries decide. And now we've got a new office in Brussels. Every chamber has got an office in Brussels, like the architects have got an office over there, the lawyers have got. But how to implement this new built office into the old structure? That's kind of basic question that hasn't been solved since 20 years. And I found out that there's kind of SEP listing. I don't know how to pronounce it, so I just wrote it down over here. We've got SEP list. And we've got Euros. This Euros thing is about the people, so they're just spreading all over Europe. But SEPLIS is for the free professions. Why don't we have got something like SEPLIS for the chamber professions?
So I appreciate your capacity to show how is difficult sometimes to organize on local, regional, national level, and then on European level. So I have no concrete answer how could you really organize it. But I think that the link between the local and national organization and the European, it could be better, of course.
And what about the help that, I mean, obviously unemployment is a big problem. But do you think there's a case that because the problems of unemployment are so high that sometimes we overlook the people who have studied, have qualifications, professionals, in order to get the people maybe who don't have those kind of qualifications in work faster?
Yes, but of course the youth, especially youth, unemployment is the biggest problem in Europe. Sometimes it's 60% of the young people without perspective of job. So it means that it's a question of qualification, training, of course, but not only. At the end, the problem is also which are the jobs, the capacity to create jobs for those young people. We organize in the budget the Guarantee Jeunesse, Youth Guarantee. It's a way to help the people after the study, or you receive a stage, training, or maybe a job for. So
do you think it's hard for the EU to, put money into certain initiatives? I mean, of course, this when we're talking about SMEs, they're getting around 7 billion. Now, the young people's project that you were talking about, that scheme, the youth scheme, that's not getting so much money. So do you think? I mean, how does the EU really decide where to put its money?
How we decide? You have to know that the youth guarantee, it was decided at the end of the budget as a compensation for some people, some MEPs, some countries who thinking that it was not enough. So it's not a real will of the European Union. I think that it's only a beginning of a process of financing this possibility to have jobs for young people. So it's not enough. It's absolutely not enough. We have to do more. We have to do more.
So if you say that youth unemployment is one of the biggest problems, and is there a case that we're throwing good money after bad by giving 7 or 8 billion to SMEs?
Yes, but it's not only SMEs. Of course, SMEs are one place for, especially for young people to begin to create a SME or to find a job. But I think that we have to do both. Money for the young people, training, qualification, and capacity to begin in the market, and the support to the SMEs.
Now, let me just throw a
But-
question out to everyone else. Does anyone here think that innovation in the EU is dead right now?
Yes, I would say there's no innovation for the people that are working in their professions. Look, you're just deciding what I or my chamber, like the chamber of the pharmacists and the chamber of the medical doctors, have to cope with. But actually, you're just promoting new companies to get into our work field. It would be better if our chambers would be do that job for themselves. And for example, I'd like to come back to the topic that all Northern Europe is kind of organized by the state. I'm a self-employed pharmacist. I've got a small business with about 5 people that I'm employing. So, for example, in Northern Europe, all these structures, there aren't any self-employed people working in the health sector. These are all paid by the government.
Mr. Bellotti, how about we bring you in here? I mean, you're from the Chamber of Commerce in Veneto in Italy. I mean, in your opinion, if we're talking about SMEs, getting young people or business people to get business-minded and to innovate, I mean, what ideas would you say make a good startup company?
Yeah, I would like to point out two things that I think very important. I'm representing Chamber of Commerce system and the European Enterprise Network. It's true, and we have a long experience for many, many years about assisting companies. What I think is that the system today of the European Commission is we have a lot of offer of financing in the different fields that you were explaining, that you are speaking about. But we have a problem of organizing the demand. That means that especially for small, medium-sized companies, we need to have some institution which can help the small micro companies to be part, to get some of this financing. They can do it alone. Not at all. They cannot do it alone. It's not possible. It's too difficult for the micro companies. For this reason, I agree that it is essential to have a very strong network, like Chamber of Commerce, like European Enterprise Network, but that is not depending only on us, but even on the Commission. The Commission cannot hope that states, that governments, that local entities organize themselves to help companies. And why? Because these financing are coming from European Commission. And for this reason, it is not a big cost. It concerns about 30% of the total amount of budget. If this amount could be destinated, given to this local organization, to these networks that can work together, so we could have a solution, a very important solution, and get the result, and I conclude this first part, to get more micro companies getting the financing of European Commission.
Okay, that's right.
I fully agree with him. I think that, of course, the problem is the capacity for the micro SMEs to be part of this process. And I think that, of course,
but is this something that has been fixed under Horizons 2020? I mean, isn't it? I mean, if you're saying this is a problem, shouldn't it have been fixed
absolutely
with this package?
So it's not enough. So what could we do? We have to support, and also on national level, we have to support the capacity to organize those very small enterprises. And it means that, for example, the cohesion funds could be used also to organize this networking, this capacity building for those little SMEs. I think that it's a key question, how on national or regional or local level could we bring back those little and small, very small enterprise, because it's the beginning, and for those young people it's so important to be able to succeed in the beginning in the starting of the SME. So I fully agree, and the problem is not only the ideas or the innovation, but the capacity.
Problem could be a big problem with startups is that once they start up, but then they also fail very quickly. So I mean, what sort of measures are in place or could be in place to not only help young people to, you know, to get these businesses going, but to ensure that these
they
businesses
can
continue,
Yeah, of course.
and that they also continue to get funding, not just the initial grant system, but then the funding will continue
Yes,
throughout.
it's on a sustainable way. It means that they have to be able to grow and to become bigger and to expand the activity of those SMEs. Of course, it's a follow-up not only the first year, the second year, but a follow-up on a sustainable way. And that is possible to do also with the cohesion funds. They can be used to organize a real follow-up for those little SMEs in the time, and in not only the first 6 months or the first year, but the next years, in order to support a real growth capacity for those SMEs. But the networking and the chambers are very useful in order to do that, because they have experience. They know which are the recommendation, the capacity to follow and to train those young entrepreneurs.
And Mr. Belati, I mean, you're from the Chamber of Commerce. Do you think your Chamber of Commerce can help these young people? It can give them the right advice.
Absolutely, we are doing this. But I want again to point out, I fully agree with what was said by our colleague of the Commission. But I want to outline that we, as Chamber of Commerce, we can help, we can assist, but we have to work with not only Horizon, but all the kind of funds of the European Commission. We have to have a coordination in the activities of information about these many funds that we have at disposal. And for example, the structural funds are isolated in this case, and these funds are 2/3 of the total budget of European Commission. So European Commission at central level.
Mr. Belati, I just want to bring in Mr. Kogler from the Chamber of Commerce in Austria in here, because he also had a question about SMEs. Can you go forward with your question, Mr. Kogler?
Can you repeat the question, please?
If you'd like to ask your question about...
Yes. Okay. Okay. I would like to add on what Mr. Blasi has said, because we are also a Chamber of Commerce, a national Chamber of Commerce, and as you can see behind the logo, we are the main host in Austria for the Enterprise Europe network. I would like to put the focus here on the Enterprise Europe network, which is a European network based on the COSME program in the future, and also on Horizon, and it's really a valuable link between the European institutions, European funding programs and European calls, and the SMEs on the ground. So we are trying to translate the European programs and the European calls into a language that a local SME can understand. We try to inform them. We try to motivate them to take part. We help them in drafting proposals. We help them when they have questions about the very difficult financial regulations and the whole documents they have to provide. And we also have an alert service for European programs. So I think it's very important to have some programs for innovation and some funds. Indeed, we have 60% of the COSME is dedicated for financial instruments, and the financial instruments won't be paid out via Brussels, but via local or regional investment funds and funding organizations. So they're already much closer to SMEs. And for the advice and innovation services and funding advice, we as an Enterprise Europe Network think we have a role in bridging the gap between Brussels and SMEs on the ground, and we try our best to bring more micro-enterprises, SMEs, to engage in trans-regional European projects.
Yeah, I thank you for what you do, but I have to give some explanation. Why is it so difficult to have access to the language, the European language regarding SMEs?
It's because, considering that 99% of businesses are actually SMEs in Europe,
yes,
shouldn't there be better access for them?
Why is it that, I want to explain why is the access so difficult. It's difficult because the administrative charge is very huge. Why? Because in the past it was some misuse with the public money regarding this program. So the European citizens are always requesting a real transparency, etc. So the report.
It's the fault of the citizens, is it?
No, I mean that of course the administrative charge, all the reports and the papers, etc., etc. Why is it so difficult? Because the control has to be very, very strict. Why? Because in the past, some misused problem.
And the controls under this new program do seem to be a lot stricter.
So
there's a sort of a
it means that, of
system
course, on administrative level, it's a little bit too much for and especially for SMEs. So the chambers are there to help. But I wanted to explain why is it so difficult and complicated. It's not because the Commission or the European Parliament are totally crazy. It's because they have to control the using of the public money, and in the past some problem and not enough control was done. So it means that no, we have to control, to follow up, and it means that's okay, we have too much administrative charge. I think that we can decrease it. We can do more and we can do best.
So if we
in this regard.
decrease admin charges, then it'll be easy for SMEs, even in regional areas. Is that what you're saying?
In some SMEs, I think that you need one full-time guy or girls in order to understand and to see how it's possible to have access to the money. So I think that it's too much. We can do, as European Union, better regarding this simplification of administrative charge for the SMEs.
And Mr. Kogler, Mr. Belati, is that good for you?
Yeah, for us very good, of course, but we can understand that to avoid any distortion in the use of public funds, you need at any level and any way you need to have some formalities, because this is a guarantee of transparency. But we are at disposal as Chamber of Commerce, a European Enterprise Network, to help companies to solve all these kind of problems or formalities. We are there for doing this.
Well, we in Austria, we cooperate closely with the colleague of Ms. Durand, Mr. Rübig. He's also in the budgetary committee, and he is also very experienced in running SMEs, and he also had his own company, an SME, and he's also very eager to try to get simplifications in the financial regulations for the applicants of projects in order to make the administrative charges a little bit lower, at least.
I want to add something. I suppose that you know that we will decide on European level on the public procurement, and the public procurement is also a big capacity for SMEs to have access to some markets. So it's a big decision which will be taken in the next months, and it's very important because we will change the rules in order to give more capacity and possibility to the SME to have access to have a small call of tender in order to give more possibilities for SMEs. So I think that those chambers have now to be ready in order to inform all the SMEs. The rules will be changed, and so be ready in order to have access to this new market in the framework of this public procurement changing.
Okay. Now, we had a comment on social media from Yanis in Greece, and he said that even given the structure of Horizons 2020, specific directions can be given to promote ideas coming from students, communities, and young students. What do you say to that, Mr. Arndt?
Sorry, it's a question of citizen.
Yeah, it's from the social media.
And
pages. She asked whether, given the structure of Horizons 2020, whether specific directions can be given to promote ideas coming from students or communities and young people. So again, it goes back to what Junior was talking about young people being more involved.
But I think that the capacity for young people to be innovative, it's very important, of course, because it's a capacity for them in order to change our life and our life in the future. So it's a possibility. It's not a specific department of the 2020 program, but of course it could be supported by the 2020 program.
If you were to maybe give advice to a young person, or somebody who wants to start up a company, I mean, where would you tell them to go?
I think that the first thing that those young people have to do is to take contact, for example, with those chambers, in order to see in which sector, in which field, and how can I transform my idea in a real project.
But do you think Horizons 2020 is going to be the project that can really make Europe innovative, can put us back on the world stage or not?
I think the 2020 program supports real program from research to markets. It means from the idea and at the end to the product and the capacity to have a real diffusion of the project. So of course the whole process could be supported by this program.
And what about the rest of you guys? I mean, what do you guys generally think about Horizons 2020?
For me, it's a very complicated program. It's very difficult for young people to understand what is needed for them. it's very beautiful with a lot of money, but how to access that money? What about the rules? They're not very good explained, and that I think is a problem with Horizon 2020.
No, but I understand, of course, it's not a direct relationship between the young people and the European Union. That's impossible. It's not like that. So it means that the idea of young people on the ground have to be confronted in different steps with the chambers, with the academic, local academic, etc., in order to build a real project, to have a transnational project, because on European level we don't support local or individual initiative, and in order to build a project who can be a real interlocutor for the European Union or the European Commission. So it's difficult to explain how could you be the interlocutor from the European institution, but you have to build the different steps in order to be able to have access to this. And I think that those chambers and those people who are between the young people and the people with ideas and the capacity to build a real project are there in order to help those young people, but it's not possible to have a direct contact between the Commission and the individual guy from Italy, from Germany, from Austria. I think that we need mediators, and it exists. It exists on local and regional level.
Okay, now of course we've all been grilling Mr. Durant about funds, but Jeannie, I mean, have you actually ever tried to apply for any kind of funds or grants?
Not yet.
For Erasmus or any of the other programs?
No, but I was considering applying for the previous program, the seventh FRAM program.
So which program?
The previous one before Horizon 2020, the 7th framework program.
Sorry.
The 7th framework program.
Ah, okay, lovely. Thank you very much, Mr. Kogler. And was it hard for you or easy for you to do that? You said you were thinking about it, but you didn't actually do it.
Yeah, I was thinking, but I didn't do it yet. But I was just thinking that it will be a way forward for to solve youth unemployment if young people could be more innovative and be self-employed instead of waiting for jobs which are not coming.
And what do you think about this?
If we want to support the people, the young people, to be more innovative, I think that of course in the beginning, also in the school and also in the European programs, the young people are not only target, but they are not tools. They are human people in capacity to be autonomous and to build a real project. So I think that the entrepreneurship idea capacity has to be developed also at school as a possibility, not only the young people.
If all of these things still need to be developed, why not? I mean, we had a comment on Twitter from Luc Tika, and he said the EU fund should be used for Erasmus and not things like CAP. I mean, why not? Why doesn't the EU then just put more money back into young people?
But it's a case in the Erasmus program. It's not only for students. It's also with Erasmus pour tous. It's Erasmus Plus. We go further, not only for the young students, but also for people in charge of different in the SMEs, etc. So we enlarge the Erasmus program in order to change and to give to the young people, not only the students, the capacity to have exchange and capacity to mobility in Europe, because that's the way to do for the next years.
And then let me just throw it back to all of the participants. Does anyone have a question now for Mr. Durant?
Well,
does anyone? Yeah. Go ahead.
My question is, on the one hand, I just really like the idea of putting down all these bureaucracy. On the other hand, we've got a social court here in Germany that's just kind of court for all the social things, and you just invented a social fund in Europe, but there's no kind of European social court. So I'm just asking myself if the Commission is going to decide how to spend the money. That's it's a bit tricky because we've got a social court and the European haven't got a social court.
No. So he was talking there about the social aspect.
I think that the social aspect is very important and not enough represented in our programs. Of course, for example, I take the fiscal compact, the golden rule for the budget in the national budget. Of course, we have to change that. But why do we have not a golden rule for social for poverty, for environmental questions. So I think the balance between what we do on budgetary level, what we do on economic level, what we try to do on economic level, and what the European Union do as a real social power, it's not enough. And at the balance between the economic and the social affairs, it's absolutely not balanced, of course, because we have to do more in order to support a real social approach of European Union. And it's also important if we want to have a real development of SMEs. It's not only in the framework of the economic, but also with a social social peace and social possibility to development for all the people, also the young people, the old people, the people with the disabled, etc. We have to keep all our citizens with us, and it's not the case today.
No, the question actually I had was.
You'll have to hurry up because we're running out of time, Jim Chair.
The question is why don't we have a social court in Europe, and is the Commission going to take contact with the individual? You just said about 5 minutes ago that there's no contact between the Commissions and the individual.
If we don't have a social court, it's because there is not enough social competence in the European Union. So we have to build, first of all, social programs and social competence for the European Union and not for the member states. And at the end, we could have a social court.
So are you saying there that maybe projects aren't so well thought out? Are you saying that possibly projects aren't so well thought out?
I think that a court is necessary when you have real competence on the European Union in this social field. But it's not the case today. The social question is especially in the hand of the member states. Though the social court is national, it's not European.
Of course. Well, Mr. Arndt, and to all of our participants, we're going to have to leave it there because unfortunately we have run out of time. But you can watch the Hangout rerun on EuroparlTV's website. You just have to go to europarltv.europa.eu. Thanks, of course, to all of our participants and MEP Isabelle Durand, from myself, Miriam Zaidi, and the rest of the team at the Parliament. Thanks for watching and see you next year. Okay, thank you very much.
Well, so it was not so clear.